The December refines are finally here, and we have an interesting batch of heroes. So let's just go ahead and jump in and see how well this month turned out. First up, we're going to have our duo unit, or should I say trio unit, of Palla. So we have Bite Down Spear. This grants attack +3, and then if she initiates combat, or if she's within 3 spaces of an ally, she's getting -4 to all stats on the foe. She gets a guaranteed follow-up attack, and then if the number of flying allies within 3 spaces of her is greater than or equal to 2, she gets a brave attack. So this is pretty similar to what it was before, but it is just a pretty decently powerful weapon. Can't underestimate brave, and the cool thing is you don't have to bring like Bridal Catcher to get this effect, she just has it built in. She's like one of the OG triangle attack units, so it's nice to see this here. We then have a refine where at start of combat, if her HP is greater than or equal to 25%, she's getting another +4 to all stats. She gets 15% true damage based off her own attack, but it does not work with AoEs. And then also, if the number of flying allies within 3 spaces is greater than or equal to 2, she gets special acceleration. So overall, this is a pretty decent upgrade for Palla. Palla is kind of the unit where you just kind of want to like nuke with her. She wants to go in and just kind of destroy things with all of her flying friends, which is honestly pretty good right now considering that flying units are probably the best movement type, which is kind of crazy to say because they used to be like possibly the worst. But they've just gone up in value so much and there's so many good skills for them. And so I think Palla does definitely do well in those kind of compositions. The thing is you have to have at least 3 flyers on your team, including her. So that's something you have to consider. The other thing is that she's not like super fast. So she is kind of reliant on that guaranteed follow-up attack to quad, which means that you're really going to want to have like some kind of like offensive no fault, possibly in her B slot if you are like relying on that. If not though, you can just go for the braid and she'll probably still kill some things. Overall, this is a good weapon refine. I think it makes her a little bit better. The thing is she is lacking slang, so she really can't use like the bigger cooldowns, like let's say Luna or something like that. So you're really going to be looking at 2 cooldown specials, and even then she's still going to be like weak to guard. So that's something you have to consider as well. I think this makes her a good unit, and it definitely makes her usable in some stuff, like if you want to use her as a nuke. But she really isn't going to fit into any of the meta compositions for the melee flying archetype, right? She's not gonna be a really great frontliner. She doesn't really have like the defense and stuff effects to survive. You can obviously like put her with like guard bearing to help her out a little bit, but it's really not gonna make her like a really good version of that, like, you know, like someone like Legendary Lincia or Summer Shez or Arian or all the other competition. So I think overall, good refine, but nothing that's gonna change the meta by any means. Let's move on to our next hero. Up next is going to be Rath, and Rath is by far the unit I was most excited for in this batch because I have him at +10 and he's like one of my OG favorite characters from Blazing Blade. So we have Sakea and Wolfbow. This has slaying in it, already very nice. You get effective versus flying foes, it's pretty typical. And then if he initiates combat or if he's within 2 spaces of an allies, he's going to get +4 to all stats, and he gets 30% damage reduction against the foe's first attack. Then in this refine, he gets another round of +4 to all stats, he gets a guaranteed follow-up attack, and he gets anti-guard. Overall, I'm going to be honest, I think this weapon is pretty weak. It is like a nice upgrade, but it's not amazing. And it's definitely not in line with like current weapons by any means, right? Essentially, you're just getting like +8 to all stats. 30% DR is nice. It means that he can like, you know, stack that with Remote Sparrow if he wants, or put something better there, like, you know, even Flared Sparrow, which could be really good. But the thing really is that as a cavalry unit, he doesn't have any form of special acceleration, right? And you really want some kind of special acceleration so that you can consistently hit Deadeyes. The thing with anti-guard is that it makes it easier to hit specials, but because you don't have guaranteed acceleration, you're essentially relying on the foe to counterattack you. If they do not counterattack you, you're not getting Deadeye off, which is a really big deal. And the other really bad part, in my opinion, is the guaranteed follow-up attack. Rath is decently fast. He's pretty fast. It would have been so much better if that was offensive no follow-up. If that was offensive no follow-up, it just lets him get through Hardy Fighter. It lets him get through kind of any kind of follow-up denial. It's just way better. And it's not like Rath is slow, so I'm not really sure why they decided to go the guaranteed follow-up attack route. But it really does hold him back a bit in my opinion, and definitely makes the refine overall quite a bit weaker. Even so, I think Rath got a solid refine. He's definitely a lot better than he was before. But you definitely could still use the Arcane Bow, and it would be like a kind of like a comparable side grade. So it's really up to you which one you think is better. But I do think this refine could have used like one more effect, either being like special acceleration or even some true damage would have been really nice. Okay, let's move on to our other archer, Eleonora. So we have Mirage Longbow, we got the effective versus flying as usual, we got speed +3, and then if she initiates combat or if she's within 2 spaces of an ally, she's going to get another attack and speed +5. She gets 15% true damage based off her speed, but does not work with AoEs, and most importantly, she can deny the foe's follow-up attack. So this is already a very nice upgrade. There's no longer a speed check for the follow-up denial, you just have to initiate combat, which is really good, and they gave her some true damage, so she's going to be hitting a bit harder. But the really great thing is in her Refine, where she gets Slaying. That's right, she gets special cooldown -1, and then she gets another round of attack and speed +5, and she gets to neutralize her own penalties to attack and speed, which is overall pretty good, though it does make it so that she can't really synergize with like Legendary Robin per se. But honestly, it's not that big of a deal nowadays. And then lastly, she gets to neutralize the foe's bonus to speed and defense during combat. So you get like a dual speed defense effect. This Refine is actually really solid, like it pretty much hits everything you need in a Refine nowadays. She gets a nice amount of attack and speed, she gets additional damage, she has Slaying, so that means she can use Deadeye very efficiently because she's an infantry unit, right? So she can either go the Times Pulse route, or she can even go the Pledge route, so she can hit Deadeyes every single combat. Being able to neutralize your own penalties to attack speed is kind of whatever, but low speed defense or the dual speed defense is really, really good. Because one of the things that you have to struggle with as a nuke is contending with speed contests, right? Speed is just constantly going up and up. So just being able to remove the foe's bonuses to speed defense is big and can really help Eleonora win those speed checks so she can double. Overall, this just has pretty much everything you would want in a Refine. It definitely doesn't have like anything absurdly broken, but it's very, very good and it gives Eleonora like a very good niche in the nuke meta. Okay, let's move on to one of our gimmicky tomes, Iago's tome. So as you know, a lot of the villains in Fire Emblem Heroes who have red tomes have some kind of weird gimmick, and Iago is definitely one of those units. So let's see how he ended up. So you have Grant, which reds +3, and then at start of odd turns, if the foe's HP is less than Iago's HP -1, and they're not adjacent to another foe, they'll inflict speed and attack and speed -6 and guard on the foe. And if it's an even turn, if the foe's HP is less than his HP, and they are adjacent to another foe, he inflicts defense and res -6 and panic on that foe. Then he gets a round of +4 to all stats during combat. So once again, a little bit gimmicky here, but let's see how the Refined like kind of puts it all together. So at start of odd turns, he's going to get defense and res +6, follow-up denial, and a dual all bonuses to himself and allies within 2 spaces. So that's already really, really nice, right? So now you're not only going to be debuffing the enemy, but you're also buffing your team. But then on start of even turns, you're going to give a visible attack and speed +6, a guaranteed follow-up attack, and Hexblade to himself and allies within 2 spaces. And then lastly, he gets another round of +4 to all stats. So overall, this Refine is actually pretty cool. I really liked how they went with a very thematic Refine here, where like Iago is really playing on what turn it is, and because of that, you can either like really plan around this, right, as like an offense support unit, or you can even put him on defense and try to like mess with the opponent a little bit. But I think it just gives him a very cool niche because he has very high HP and very high resistance. You can essentially turn him into a very powerful support unit, running things like sabotage attack resistance or like infantry pulse 4 or like any of those kind of like HP or resistance based effects. And what this will essentially allow Iago to do is act as a really cool support unit who really like hampers the enemy's team while also buffing your own team. And the other cool thing is you kind of get to decide which effects you want, right? If you're playing with him on offense, you just wait to engage the foe until the turn that is best for you. So if the foe's trying to like stack a whole bunch of buffs, you can wait till like an even turn, and then they'll get panicked and like defense res -6, and then you're also going to be getting nice effects for yourself as well. So it's like very versatile and cool, and I think this is just overall a very nice Refine. Now, do I think this is like a meta-breaking Refine, or do I think this is like the best support unit in the game? Obviously not, right? Like this obviously isn't going to break the game, but I do think these are some good effects, right? Like follow-up denial and guaranteed follow-up attack really aren't the biggest deal in our current meta because no follow-up is literally everywhere, but dual all bonuses to like an Omni tank is really good because it can give a massive stat advantage. And Hexblade to like an Omni tank or to like even a nuke is really good because it allows them to secure kills. So overall, he's giving some really nice effects to your team and some really annoying effects on the enemy team. So overall, very solid Refine for Iago. And then the final Refine of this batch, the Chad, Shannan himself. We have Balmung, this gives speed +3, and then if the foe initiates combat, or if their HP is greater than or equal to 75%, he'll neutralize his own penalties, he'll get +5 to all stats, and then he'll also get full tempo, which is really nice. Then when it comes to Refine, if his HP is greater than or equal to 25%, he'll get all stats plus X during combat, where X is 15% of his visible speed +4, and then also he'll get speed-based damage reduction up to 40%. So how good is this refine? Really, I think this is a good refine, but not an amazing refine. I think if this would have came out like maybe a year ago or a little bit further, it would have been really, really good. But nowadays, Omni tanks really need a lot to be able to perform like at a high level. And this has some good stuff in it. Obviously, tempo is really nice. Gonna allow him to like proc those specials and stuff. The problem is he doesn't have slaying, so that means that he really can't reliably use Vital Astra or Godlike Reflexes, which you really need one of the two at the very least to be a good God Sword. So that's already like a big thing really working against him. And then the other thing is like he does get a ton of stats. I think he can get up to like almost 19 stats from his weapon, which is really, really good. Like that's an absurd amount of stats. But the speed-based damage reduction is like okay. It's not really all that amazing because there's so much damage reduction piercing in the meta right now, and this damage reduction can easily be pierced. So like if you run into like, you know, Special Survival 4 or like tier 4 no follow-up or like a tempo tier 4, like he's gonna get kind of destroyed because he doesn't have a way to run Godlike Reflexes to have non-pierceable DR. And the other thing is he's not the fastest. Even with all the stats, he's gonna need some like good support to be fast enough where he's not getting doubled. And he might also struggle to secure kills because he probably won't have a way to like pierce DR. So I think this is a good refine. It definitely makes Shannan a lot better, but I don't really think it puts him like really high into the like the tier list for like Omni tanks or God Swords, unfortunately. It's overall a good refine, just not an amazing one. Okay, who won the refine war for December? So overall, I think this batch is kind of like mid, not like mid in a bad way, but like mid as like in the middle of the tier list. Everybody got a good refine, but I don't think anyone got like an amazing refine. Out of this batch, I think Eleonora definitely comes out on top, as she does have a lot of good effects you want on a nuke, but she doesn't have anything like crazy insane over the top, which in today's meta, you kind of want that, right? Like compare her to like a Duo Sonic or like a Wing Claude, and you kind of get my point. Like she's definitely not going to be performing at that level. Everybody else I'm going to put down in B tier. Overall, like a very solid batch that makes all of them better and stronger and lets them like kind of work better in their niche. Out of this batch, I do think Rath came out on bottom, which kind of sucks because that's the refine I was looking forward to the most. But they really didn't give him what he needed to like stand out amongst all the like ranged nukes. With that said, I'd love to hear from you. What do you think of this refine batch? Who do you think got the best refine? And who are you planning to build? I would love to hear about that. Make sure to drop a comment down below, like tell me all about your plans to build these units. As always, I'd like to thank all my members for their constant support. And if you enjoyed the video, like and subscribe. This has been Oblivion, and I'll catch you all later with more Fire Emblem Heroes.